Hello kids, how you all doing today? I hope you're having an exciting time this Saturday. Well, it's another episode on Tales and Lesson with Sharon, and I am Sharon Ajay as always. I hope you are all excited as I am today to hear the story I have for you today. Well, today's story is about a beautiful young girl named Rosalina. And that's where we got our title for today's story. Today's story title is Rosalina. Well, before we dive right into the story, we'll be going on a short break, and when we return, we'll start our story. So kids, stay tuned. Hi kids, welcome back. I know you're all excited to hear the story of Rosalina. Well, stay tuned, grab a popcorn, let's go. Once upon a time, in a village far, far, far away, in a small community, there was a man whose wife was heavily pregnant with a baby girl. One day, she was looking out through the window into the garden beside her house. She spotted a wild, beautiful rose flower growing there. "Oh, my dear husband," she said, "please bring me the rose flower. I am a bit tired today. I need to squeeze out the juice and drink it. It will make me feel much, much, much better." However, there was a problem. The garden beside them belonged to a powerful, wicked witch. But regardless of the fact that they knew that the garden belonged to a powerful witch, the husband could not say no to his pregnant, beautiful wife because he wanted her to feel much better. And so he climbed over the wall into the garden and plucked out the beautiful rose. When he returned, his wife was so happy. She took the flower and squeezed out the juice and drank it, and it made her feel much better, just like she had said. The next night, her husband went back again to pluck out another rose. And he went back the next night, and he went back the next night after that. But on the third night, as he was taking the rose, the terrible witch saw him and walked up to him. "What are you doing?" she yelled. "It is mine." Angry and very furious as she was, she raised her wand to strike him dead. "I plucked it for my pregnant wife so she could get better," said the man. "Please don't strike me," he pleaded. The witch dropped down her wand and said to him, "I will let you take it, but on one condition." Interesting, right? Well, we'll be going on a short break now, and when we return, we'll get to hear the condition that the witch gave to the husband. So kids, stay tuned. Welcome back, kids. I know we are all excited and ready to know the condition that the witch gave the husband. So let's continue. The witch dropped down her wand and said to him, "I will let you take it, but on one condition. When the baby comes, you will give her to me. She will be mine." Terrible condition, right? Well, The husband, not thinking because he was so scared to die, said, "All right, I'll do just that. The baby will be yours." After he said those words, the witch let him go. The day came when the baby was born. The husband and the wife were so happy and rejoicing. Then the witch arrived. "I have come to take what is mine," she said. "Please, no," cried the wife. "You can't take her away." "A promise is a promise," said the witch. She then took the baby girl and headed off. She took the child off to a tall tower in the woods. It had no door and only one window, and it was very high up. And there she raised the beautiful girl and named her Rose, after the flower that her father has plucked. No one in the community saw the girl but only the witch. Rose grew up to be a very beautiful lady. She had a lovely, beautiful golden hair, which was very long. When the witch wanted to go up into the tower, because the tower was so high up, she would call out, "Rosalina, Rosalina, let down your hair." And out of the window, Rose let down a very long golden hair. The witch climbed up the hair and went in. On a bright, beautiful morning one day, the prince of the community was riding past the tower, and he heard a beautiful song sung by a beautiful voice. He then looked up and saw a beautiful girl. Instantly, he fell in love with Rosalina on the spot. While staring at Rosalina from a distance, the witch arrived. "Rosalina, Rosalina, let down your hair." Rose let down her hair and the witch climbed up. The prince was in utter shock, and he waited until the witch had gone. Then he called out, just as the witch had called, "Rosalina, Rosalina, let down your hair." He then climbed up, and when she saw him, Rosalina was so scared because, other than the witch, no one has come to visit her in the high and tall tower. And the prince was so good looking. He was very handsome. Rosalina fell in love with the prince instantly on the spot also. Amazing, right? Well, after that day, he came to visit her often. Rosalina was so very happy that she had seen some other person other than the witch. But one day, when the witch came home, Rosalina said, "Mother, you are so much heavier than he is." "Who?" said the witch. Rosalina at this point knew that her secret was out. The witch was so angry. She took out a pair of scissors and cut off the long hair that Rosalina had. Then she carried Rosalina away to a far away forest and locked her up in a small hut. "Let this be a lesson to you, never to let a stranger in," said the witch to Rosalina. The prince came by to the tower unknowingly to him. "Rosalina, Rosalina, let down your hair." The hair came down. I guess we are all wondering now who let down the hair, knowing that Rosalina, the witch, had already taken Rosalina to her small hut inside the forest. Well, We'll be going on a short break now, and when we return, we'll get to know who lets down the hare. Is it Rosalina or the witch? So kids, stay tuned. Excited to know who let down the hare. Was it the witch disguising as Rosalina, or was it Rosalina herself? Well, let's continue our story and you'd get to find out. The prince climbed up, but to his horror, in the tower was not Rosalina, but the witch. How dare you take what is mine? She screamed in anger, and she pushed him out of the window. Down, down, down he fell into the thorns below, and his eyes were terribly hurt. Alone and unable to see, the prince wandered into the woods. He used his hands to feel for berries and fruits so as not to starve. And he cried out, "Oh, Rosalina, my love, where are you? Oh, Rosalina, my darling, where are you?" He was in anguish and he was in pain. One day, while he was still in the forest, eating berries and trying to survive with his eyes hot, he found himself deep, deep, deep into the forest. He heard a song. Guess the song he heard, kids? Guess the song he heard? Well, it was the song he heard before he met Rosalina at the tower. Instantly, the prince knew that was Rosalina's voice. With excitement, he screamed, "Rosalina! Rosalina! Is that you?" "Oh, my love!" Rosalina called out to him. He went towards where he could hear her voice. He used the voice to trace her to where she was. And he found the door of the hut and opened it. She embraced him and she wept the tears of joy. She was super, super, super excited to see him after a long while of being in the hut. And guess what, kids? Guess what happened next? And suddenly, the magic love of her tears healed his eyes. Oh my! He said and cried out, "I can see finally! I can see finally!" He cried out, "Oh my darling Rosalina!" And he got down on one knee. "Will you marry me, Rosalina?" he asked. Of course, she screamed, jumping with excitement. He took her off to his palace and they got married and lived happily ever after. The end! How exciting, right? Oh, wow. I'm super glad it ended in, happily ever after. Well, who knew that the prince would get to find where Rosalina was? Thinking she was at that hut where the witch kept her in, we thought that was like the end of her life. But, well, I love beautiful love stories like this. And I hope you do too, kids, right? I hope you enjoyed the story. So it was quite a nice one. Welcome back, kids. Our next story is how the tortoise became bored. Interesting, right? Remember in our last episode, we spoke about how the tortoise cracked a shell. And as many of you that have not listened to that episode, I would like that you go and listen to that. You can understand this story because they're intertwined and everything. So we're going to go to how the tortoise became bowed. And guess what, kids? The tortoise was not always a bowed animal. He used to have hair on his head. However, due to unfortunate circumstances which the tortoise brought upon his own head, he lost it all. Well, we'll be going on a break now, and when we return, I'll get to tell you the story of how the tortoise became bald. So kids, stay tuned. Once upon a very, very long time. Remember the story I told you where the tortoise broke his shell? Well, it was long, long, long before then that he had hair. The dog and his family had prepared a feast of yam porridge. The aroma reached the tortoise, who immediately followed his nose, which led him to the dog's home. The tortoise went in and saw that a big pot of yam porridge was cooking. Wanting all of it for himself, he thought about a lie to tell the dog to get him out of the house. He called out to the dog and told him that he had brought a message from the king. The king wishes to see you and all your family in the palace, the tortoise said rather. The dog immediately left to see the king, leaving the tortoise with a big shimmery pot of yam porridge. The tortoise began to eat as fast as it could. He knew that the dog would be back as soon as possible because the king was not at the palace. And soon he heard the dog approaching. There was still a lot of porridge left in the pot. The tortoise wanted to take some home with him and look around for something he could put some porridge in. The dogs by now were almost at the door. As he was running out of time, the tortoise pulled off his cap, filled with the porridge, and put it back on so nobody would know he was carrying porridge. He planned to hurry off immediately because the porridge on his head was indeed so hot. When the dogs came in, the tortoise told them he would be leaving. The dogs then asked him to stay with them for lunch as they had some porridge cooking. The tortoise tried to make excuses to leave immediately, but the dogs kept him, trying to convince him to stay. Eventually, the porridge was so hot and unbearable that the tortoise just had to pull off his hat. Everybody were in shock when he pulled off his hat to reveal a steaming hot porridge. The porridge had burnt his scalp so badly that all his hair fell off and in fact never grew back again. The end. Well, you see what greed can cause. Well, the tortoise became bald because he kept a steamy hot porridge on his head. Unfortunately. Well, that's all we have for today, and I know that you are super excited to hear this story. Well, kindly join us on our next episode on Tales and Lesson with Sharon. See you next time. Bye.